Hey guys, I'm Will from Tested.
I'm Norm from Tested.
Norman Chan. I love reading.
But not books.
I love reading
physical.
books.
When I say books, I mean physical books.
Books are books. The delivery format is irrelevant.
A connoisseur of the e-ink.
I have been testing this guy right here for the last about 2 weeks now. I feel like I've used it enough to have pretty strong opinions about it. It's the new Kindle Voyage. It is the high-end Kindle. It doesn't replace the old Paperwhite, this guy right here. But it's just the
they introduce a new tier.
Exactly. It starts at $200, which puts it about $70 more than the Paperwhite, which previously was a high-end e-ink Kindle. I absolutely love the Paperwhite. I've been using them for 2 years now. 2 generations. The first generation, second generation, essentially the same. The screen's a little tiny bit better in the second generation, but this new one came out and I wasn't exactly sure where it fit.
You thought the Paperwhite, many people thought the Paperwhite, end all be all, aside from having, maybe even faster refresh rate, even higher contrast or color, you don't really need much more.
It's the definition of good enough, right? If you look at the Paperwhite, the page refresh is fine. It's very fast. It has the backlight, which means that you can lay in bed in the dark and read. It makes it a little bit easier to read in even bright rooms because the backlight stays on all the time. The battery life is really good. I charge my Kindle, my Paperwhite, usually like maybe once. I would say 1.5 times a month if you look out over the course of the year.
Plenty of reading.
Reading every single night. The Voyage, which is the new one, is a new design. It brings back some old features that were missing from the touch-based Kindles that we've seen over the last few years.
Let's compare them side to side.
Yeah, so here's the side-by-side picture. It's a little bit smaller is the first thing you'll notice. It's smaller, thinner, and lighter. I don't find it to be an important distinction.
For example, if someone who had not a lot of experience with Kindles, those look almost exactly the same.
The screen size is the same. The resolution is different on the new one. The new resolution is, I think, 300 pixels per inch. The Paperwhite was 212, I think. So it's a substantially higher resolution screen. I don't think it matters.
And that's the big selling feature.
That's one of the big selling features.
One of the big selling features, one of the reasons they can charge $80 more is because they say that this is the text on this is the sharpest you've seen so far on an ebook reader.
So it was really sharp before, and because of the fonts that they choose that are available on the e-ink readers on the Kindle, you're limited in your font choices. So they're only putting fonts on that are going to look good at lower pixel density screens. Because the cheap Kindle, the $70 version, is only 167 ppi screen. So it's a much lower resolution than even the Paperwhite. And like the only time I notice the difference between the two screens is when I'm on the very smallest font setting. And we're going to drop a close-up shot in here so you guys can see this. But it's just not like. It's not any more legible because of the higher resolution. I still can't read the smallest text comfortably. I end up going actually up 2 sizes typically to the third setting. So like in that regard, it's kind of a wash. Like it's nice that it's a higher resolution screen. I don't really think it matters that much. It's definitely not comparable to the jump on phones and tablets from the first few generations that were 640 by 320 screens on the iPhone and into 1080p screens that are 4 inches and 5 inches across.
480, yep.
Yeah.
Because you're not looking at graphics.
You're not looking at graphics. Text is fairly legible. We're only dealing with 2 colors. I think that there's a little bit of font anti-aliasing happening here anyway, so you see grayscale fill-ins. It's really not. It's not something you notice.
That's because of the way your brain works. Your brain recognizes shapes of text and does half the work of recognizing what a word is from that shape. And then, like you said, typography fixes half of that.
So the interesting thing about this, though, is that 300 ppi is, of course, the same resolution as like a LaserJet printer or inkjet printer or something like that when you print on the fine detail. So I assume that this is the high end of what we'll see on e-ink screens for the foreseeable future. With no real measurable benefit between 212 and 300, I can't imagine that we're going to see 300, 600, 900 ppi screens in the future.
And I had not looked at this before today, and we did a blind test, and we compared, and after you switched around a couple times, I was able to identify.
You were able to tell, you had to study. You took it several moments.
Yep.
I adjusted the backlight and the font sizes a few times just to kind of trick you. But, what cues were you seeing? Were you actually seeing the font, or were you looking at the screen being a little bit wider on the...
No, I was looking at the letter Y. and just aliasing on a word, on a character.
So this is a serif font that it's set on right now, and you can see the little serifs are just a little tiny bit crisper on the new screen.
Yep.
The things that I really do, just to be clear, I really do like this Kindle. It's a nice Kindle.
It's lighter.
It's lighter. It's thinner. You're not going to be able to see how much thinner it is because of the beveled edges. It picks up some of the industrial design from the newer Kindle tablets. So it has these beveled edges that are straight edges, and then it has a clear translucent spot on the top. Power buttons on the back, which is actually a really convenient place to hit it.
Why is that right clear on the back?
There's a light sensor in there, so it can tell. It picks up ambient light around you and can adjust the backlight automatically, which is one of my favorite features of the new device. And I'm going to go ahead and switch that. So I had these are both set on the same backlight level now. You can see they're kind of indistinguishable on camera. The new screen is a little bit whiter. The contrast ratio between the white and the black is a little bit better. You're not going to notice unless you set them side by side. I'm going to switch it to the auto brightness, and it's going to brighten up because we're in the studio. We've got studio lights on. The auto brightness is really good. It means that I don't have to fiddle with the brightness ever. When I go from, say, a well-lit living room, I go back to bed, turn the lights off, it automatically dims all the way down until it's just 1 or 2 notches above.
Does it get dark
zero.
enough?
It definitely gets dark enough.
Okay.
That was one of my complaints with the first generation Kindle. They fixed it with the second generation Kindle. That moves on from there.
And that's something that people don't realize when you talk about brightness. Everyone assumes being brighter is a good thing, especially when we talk about laptops or cell phone screens. But with an e-ink reader, you want it to get dark enough so when you're reading, it's not overwhelming.
Well, with anything, you don't want to be, whether it's a tablet, a phone, or an ebook reader, you don't want to be laying in bed and have that illuminating glow blasting you in the eyes right before you go to bed.
Or bleeding on the edge of the screen or anything like that.
And there's none of that here. The screen, the lighting's very even. It's around the edge. On the design side, they changed a couple of other things that I think are really nice. Since the dawn of the touch-based Kindles, they've done this thing where they recess to the screen. You can kind of see it here, but it's basically like a couple of tenths of a millimeter that the screen is sunk down into the device. There's just an edge.
And that's because the sensor isn't actually a capacitive layer. It's from the edges.
They don't talk about what the sensor is now. Originally, it was a series of an IR grid that was across the whole thing, and it would tell where your finger was by the interruption of the light going across the face. I don't think that they've used the IR sensors for any of the Paperwhites. I think they're capacitive touchscreens based on how they respond.
But the new one.
But the problem with this sunken-in design is that it catches things.
Right.
So whether it's crumbs or flakes of dead skin or whatever, the corners and the edges of this thing get crusty and really gross very quickly.
Yeah, we should have crumbled up a cookie.
I can just scrub my face and all the skin mites that come off will take care of that. The new one's flat across the surface. So. So it has, you can tell it has some sort of touch thing because you can swipe the fonts up and down with 3-finger gestures. There's no place for skin and stuff like that to get. It's a smooth face across the front. It's much easier to use. You don't actually need the context of that edge to know, okay, that's going to make me go back a page. This is going to make me go forward a page.
God, it looks almost like a sticker. It's fake.
It does. It looks like when you buy a new tablet or something and they have that sticker with the fake screenshot on the front.
It's an IKEA prop.
It does look a lot like that. So it's. Primarily, I find myself using the touchscreen controls for this, and it works the same way as every touch Kindle ever has. Basically, if you look, there's 3 main zones on the screen. There's this big, huge rectangle here that makes you go forward anywhere in that general vicinity. There's a smaller rectangle here that makes you go backwards a page. And then there's the top section that lets you pull down menus and navigate your library and stuff like that. You can also swipe. It does gestures. You can go forwards and back. That stuff works really well. You can do it with either hand. I find myself, if I'm using touch controls, almost always holding the left hand just in case I have to go back.
Now, many people did not like the new Kindles because they're touch only.
So originally the Kindles had 2 big buttons. One big button on either side that made the page turn forward, so you could hold it left-handed or right-handed, and one smaller button up above that was the back button. And they were big, friendly, tactile buttons. They had a good click feel, and that went all the way through the 3rd generation Kindle. And I think the $79 Kindle is a non-touch version as well. I'm not sure about the new ones, but previously they have. We didn't look at them last year. They brought the side buttons back, but they're haptic buttons. So you can see this white stripe on the side. is represents the big button. Then there's a little tiny dot up here that represents the back button. And
So do they actually depress?
no, they don't actually depress, but you kind of squeeze them and you feel a little bit of a bump. It's just a little haptic bump.
It's a vibration?
It's a little tiny vibration. It's just enough to let you know you pressed it. I don't like these buttons at all. I actively dislike them because you have to be, you can kind of do the
grip.
back button just by hitting it, but you really need to kind of squeeze. It's not just a graze. It's not, you don't know when you pressed until it's too late. You give it a squeeze. See what I'm saying?
Oh.
It feels nice, but
Feels-
you never use it in
yeah.
practice.
It feels like it gives the illusion you're depressing something.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a haptic response that's designed to mimic an actual button press. It just doesn't work very well. And you have to press a little bit harder than I think you would if they actually just put a physical button on.
I don't like the ergonomics of that. It's real close to the edge.
There's not enough, on the old Kindles that had physical buttons, the bezels were a little bit bigger. They were bigger devices in general.
They have a big chin that you can
Exactly.
cup into your palm.
And with no chin, there's even less chin on this than there was on the Paperwhite. So, the buttons should be way higher than they are if they're going to do them at all. I feel like a lot of this device, the design decisions were made because they looked at the feedback they've gotten from previous Kindles and the changes that came with the Touch and the Paperwhite, and they're like, look, let's give the people what they want. And it's like, I don't know that it's necessary anymore. The touch stuff is really fast, really responsive. It's very easy to use. Maybe the big difference is that this will probably work with gloves on, and the touchscreen may or may not. I didn't actually test that. Probably.
What about the software? Did they change anything like that?
The software is more or less the same. I mean, they have the same kind of X-ray features. Let me go back and get into the fiction part of the app of the book here. Back. And the page,
pretty fast.
The page turning is as fast as you can tap, basically. So it has X-ray. They're adding some new stuff that isn't in the initial. That isn't in the initial software. But I'm going to click on a character's name, and here we go. Oh, this book doesn't have X-ray. If you have a book that has X-ray, then you can select a character name, and it'll give you a brief rundown of the character. You can go to all the pages that the character shows up. So if you're reading like a Neil Stephenson book that has 50 million characters and you can't remember who is who, it helps with that. I find I actually do use that stuff
And
sometimes.
also, the great example is Game of Thrones, when each chapters are between different characters.
Yeah, or when all of a sudden in the middle of the fourth book they introduce an entire house that we've never heard of before. It was one of the 7 houses. It has the dictionary stuff. You have to download the dictionary for your language. I find myself actually using those features. Some of the stuff is available in Kindle apps for your phones and tablets, like the dictionary and the Wikipedia lookup. The X-ray stuff is exclusive to Kindle devices. So the e-ink reader, the Paperwhite, the Voyage, and the tablets.
Now, because the screen's brighter and it's smaller, is the battery life the same?
So the screen's not really brighter. The backlight is the same. Seems like it gets to be about the same level of bright, which you never really use the full brightness. The screen's the actual surface itself is a little bit wider.
Got it.
Like I said, I've had it for 2 weeks. I didn't plug it in when I got it. It came to me with about a half charge, which seems to be what they ship Kindles at. I had to recharge it 2 nights ago, so it's been 14 days on half a battery.
That's not bad.
Literally using it
about a
every
month.
day, reading 3 or 4 books in that time period. So,
Okay.
it's battery life is it's a really good balance. It's better than say a smartwatch, which you have to charge infrequently enough that you can never find the charger when you need it, but frequently enough that it's always a hassle. With this, and because it's a micro USB cable, you can just plug it into anything and it just works.
Yeah, the only people that's going to really worry is travelers, like month-long travelers, and then you can always have a USB battery pack.
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing about it is it's a relatively low power device, so you can charge it off of any USB device. Even plugging into the port on your laptop is enough, and everybody should carry a micro USB charger with them everywhere they go, pretty much.
Cool.
I think that's pretty much it for the Kindle. Yeah.
I mean, if you have last year's Paperwhite, it's not really something you need to upgrade.
Yeah, I don't think if you have any of the Paperwhites, if you have an e-ink reader with the backlight, and even if you use it every day, this isn't a device that you need.
No.
This is, if you want to get something nice as a gift for someone, and you don't want to get them the cheap one, I think that's why this product exists.
Or if you want to find an excuse to, if you have the 3rd gen Kindle, or even and you have extra $200 and you really love using it.
I think that this is something like the smaller size is actually pretty nice. The buttons are, don't buy it for the buttons. If you've been pining for lost buttons on the Kindle for the last 3 years, this isn't going to suit your needs. If they were going to make a premium product, I would have much rather see them release a waterproof version. Nano coated, something that you can take in the tub with you and not worry about splashing, something you can take to the beach. That's much more exciting to me than a slightly higher resolution screen and a something that weighs 4/10 of an ounce less than the previous device.
How unwaterproof is this?
If you look at it, the surface is sealed, the front's sealed. I don't worry about taking it. I'll read while I'm brushing my teeth, and if I splatter toothpaste on it, I just wipe it off. I don't worry about that. The poor man's waterproof case for a Kindle. Of course, it's a different size, so all of the previous generation Kindle cases don't fit anymore. The poor man's waterproof Kindle case is a Ziploc bag.
Yep.
I would still take it in the tub with a Ziploc bag if you like laying in the tub and reading. It's $200 though, and to me, the difference between $120 for the Paperwhite and $200 for this is something that I cherish, and this is something that I would be sad if I broke, but I wouldn't probably hesitate to replace.
Now, if someone's getting their first awesome Kindle, do they buy the Wi-Fi or they buy the connected cellular?
So that's the other thing. There's a bunch of different purchasing options. You can buy the Wi-Fi only version. You can buy one that has 3G that has no contract. It's free to use. You can download books pretty much anywhere you have a 3G signal. The 3G add-on is $70 on top of the device, so it's an expensive add-on. It's the same for the Paperwhite, although I'm not sure that they're doing the 3G Paperwhite anymore. I think that might have gone away with the addition of this. I find, I have a phone that has a hotspot.
Yeah.
So I don't need the paper. I don't need the 3G, and the $70 is better spent on. That's a month's phone bill basically.
And you said it still comes with offers.
It still comes with offers, which I find kind of distasteful on a $200 ebook reader.
You can always pay for it.
It's $20 to remove the offers. Yeah. You can buy it with the offers removed. You can remove the offers using the Manage My Kindle page. This is what the offers look like. So this is literally just an ad for another book that's out. I'll turn it off, on. And then you get a different one every time. Sometimes they're local stuff, like it knows that I live near San Francisco. So every once in a while I'll get a day spa invite. The thing that annoys me about this is that you hit the power button and you always see the ad. You have to swipe to unlock the device. It's just a couple of extra seconds. Whereas the Paperwhite, which I unlocked last year on the stream, when you hit the power button, it just goes straight into your book. Again, it's literally
pay the $20.
Couple of tenths of a second. It's not a big deal. Sometimes I actually see books that I'm interested in and would like to buy on the offers page.
You can't turn it off and turn it back on.
You can turn it off and turn it back on.
You can pay for it and add
You can
offers?
pay for it and then turn it back on if you want. If you miss the offers, I just don't like the hey, we want to make sure you look at this, so you have to swipe too. It just annoys me. But it's a small thing.
That's their business model.
$200 they should be able to. You should not have to look at ads for $200. Make a $180 one with no ads.
Yeah.
With ads.
That's an accounting thing.
So that's it. It's the Kindle Voyage. I really like it. Don't upgrade your Paperwhite. Don't upgrade your Paperwhite 2. If you bought the $70 Kindle and you use it all the time, this is a wonderful upgrade. The addition of the backlight is an amazing, amazing thing, especially if you like laying and reading.
You can always hand me down, or the $70 one is your beach Kindle.
Kindles don't expire. It's not like you can't get books on your first generation Kindle today.
Right, that's a good question. Can you use your first or second generation Kindles and
still work?
Still work.
Assuming the battery's still good. Lithium-ion batteries have a definite charge cycle, so 1,500 charges in, it's not going to hold a charge for very long. But you can still buy the books, and you can still read the same books, and you still get the same updates. One thing to note is that they don't have the experimental stuff on the newer 3G Kindles. So
the X-ray and the...
No, X-ray is there. They used to have like an experimental web browser. So you could buy a 3G Kindle and then theoretically have free international 3G web browsing anywhere that thing works. That they don't do anymore.
That's fine.
Yeah, it's all good.
You can always get a used Kindle also.
Used Kindles are a perfectly reasonable thing to buy. So that's it. It's a Kindle Voyage. It's $200 plus $70 plus $20 if you want to get fully loaded with the 3G and everything turned off. I don't think it's worth that. I wouldn't upgrade my Paperwhite, but it's a really, really nice e-reader if you're just getting into the market. So I'm Will.
I'm Norm.
See you guys later.
Bye.